During the PS2 generation, Snowblind Studios was making a name for itself, with quality hack-and-slash RPGs through the beloved Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance along with their Champions games. At the same time, Raven Software was making their own action RPGs focused on the X-Men franchise. These X-Men RPGs saw great success, which caught the eye of Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment was interested in finding a developer that could make an action RPG with their iconic heroes. As such, Snowblind Studios caught their attention and offered them the keys to the DC universe. Snowblind aimed to take their successful formula and skills from their prior games and apply it to the DC characters. Join me as we take a look back at Justice League Heroes. With Snowblind Studios making quality hack-and-slash RPGs during the PS2 generation, Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment approached Snowblind for a potential offer to apply those skills to a Justice League setting. Snowblind accepted the opportunity and got to work on Justice League Heroes. The developers wanted to focus on delivering a direct and focused narrative. They did not want to feature large text boxes to the player to convey the story, but rather focus on quick cinematics that both showed off the heroes and provided good presentation to the narrative. This game's progression was not going to be provided through the traditional means of new armor and changing equipment. It was all going to be focused on the superpowers. Boosts could be acquired like pieces of loot and be slotted into different powers to better their abilities. Along with this, since many of the heroes have destructive abilities, there was going to be destructible objects within the environments along with opportunities to use those objects as weapons. The team wanted to provide co-op within their game and found 2 players to be the right fit for it. They discussed increasing that number, but found that the action got too chaotic and not as enjoyable and felt that 2 players hit a nice balance. The plan was to use a mix of very well-known heroes along with some of the lesser-known ones mixed into the game. This way players could play as some recognizable favorites along with some other characters. Additional characters could be obtained through using shields found within levels to expand the roster of characters. Oddly enough, Halo was an influence in the use of regenerating health and energy within this game. The developers wanted to get away from using potions for these godly superheroes and felt that regenerating health fit more for these characters. Dwayne McDuffie was brought on as a writer to the game to write an original story that incorporated many inspirations from established and beloved comic book storylines. This would ensure that the story maintained the right amount of authenticity to the characters. As a result, the story would feature many different heroes and villains from the DC comics along with iconic locations like Metropolis and Mars. The story was going to be set within its own timeline, allowing for freedom to approach the narrative and characters in any way they wanted. At the time, Snowblind Studios delivered quality hack-and-slash RPGs, making them the right fit for a game like this. Bringing on an established comic book writer ensured that the original story they were going to tell was going to be respectful to the characters. In November 2006, Justice League Heroes was released to the world. Justice League Heroes is an action RPG played from a top-down perspective. Missions have the player controlling one of 2 heroes. You can switch between the heroes whenever you want during the level. Each of the different characters have unique powers that make them fun to try out. The action is easy to get into and very fun. Defeating enemies provides you with experience points for leveling along with orbs that can be slotted into each of the different skills. While the game can be too restrictive at times and could have benefited from a better execution in some areas, the action is enjoyable and addictive, along with being a solid action RPG that allows you to play as various Justice League members.
Heads up. There's more of them above. I see them. Steady. Don't let them overwhelm you.
The general gameplay revolves around beat-em-up type action. You have 2 buttons for your standard attacks. You can perform a quick and heavy hit. You can chain these together to do some basic combos. Depending on the character, you can pick up a varying amount of different objects within the environment. For example, Superman can pick up cars and hit enemies with them, where Batman cannot. Along with this, Batman can pick up smaller items like signs and trash cans. Each of the characters have a different form of a double jump as well. Certain characters can fly, while others will have a double jump or a glide move. Each of the heroes have different powers for their skill set. This requires energy to pull off. This energy will regenerate over time, so you cannot spam your powers. For defensive options, you can block attacks, but being able to perform some type of dodge or roll would have been appreciated here. When it comes down to the different heroes and their powers, it's fun to try each of them out and see what unique powers that they have. There are 7 core heroes to use within the game, along with some unlockable ones. The core heroes are Superman, Batman, Martian Manhunter, Zatanna, Green Lantern, The Flash, and Wonder Woman. Each of the core heroes have 5 different skills that are specific to their character. For example, Superman has his heat vision, freeze breath, 2 heavy melee-based hits, along with an ability that reduces the damage taken for a limited period of time. Whereas Batman's skills are more focused on his gadgets like batarangs, a grappling attack, along with being able to call down a swarm of bats on your enemies. Each of these different special moves provide you with options for the fights. If you want to focus on a single enemy and closing the distance, you may want to focus on using Batman's grappling ability. Or if you want to focus on hitting someone at range, then use Superman's heat vision. I really like the detail with some of the attacks as well. Superman can outright freeze enemies with his breath, and they will break into little pieces of ice when you hit them. The same goes for damaging the regular enemies, as some will have their helmets fly off and robots will lose their arms. There's a good variety of different special moves, and they're a lot of fun to try out with the core heroes.
Super! Let me give you a hand.
The combat is a nice mix of fun beat-em-up action and simple yet addictive RPG mechanics. The melee hits have some nice impact to them from the sound effects, along with the impact of pushing enemies back by throwing stuff at them. The addiction comes into play from leveling up, along with picking up new orbs. As you defeat enemies, you will gain experience points and level up. Once you level up, you can choose to unlock or better one of your skills. This includes one of your 5 different special moves, along with 4 passive abilities that better your health, melee attacks, and other areas. Leveling up the skills will improve their power. Along with this, defeated enemies will drop orbs for you to pick up. This is this game's version of loot. With each level up into your skills, you can slot in an orb to better that skill even further, along with adding some customization to it. Some orbs will improve your range of attacks, the damage, how fast your attacks are, and more. In addition to all of this, you can combine 3 orbs together to increase their power. You can also use this to create a new type of orb. The RPG mechanics are more streamlined here, but the orb system allows for some nice player expression as you choose what you want to slot into the different abilities. You level up at a pretty good rate, so the gameplay loop consists of defeating bad guys, leveling up, unlocking skills, and then using orbs to choose how you want to improve them further. This does not get old and keeps you invested throughout the entire campaign. What helps with this is how each of the characters have unique abilities that help them stand out and feel different to play as. Zatanna can provide healing for you, whereas Green Arrow is focused on range fighting. The levels are very linear, with some alternate paths, but for the most part the action is mostly a direct experience. Most of the level objectives consist of defeating enemies and reaching the exit, but sometimes the action changes by having you rescue civilians or completing an objective within a time limit. Along with this, there are shields to find in each of the levels. The shields allow you to unlock alternate costumes along with new characters to use in specific settings. The alternate costumes have their own stat bonuses to them, adding some more player choice to the game. Boss fights help to change up the action along with bookending the missions. The bosses usually are different fights compared to the regular action, along with having a few different forms. Figuring out their ins and outs can be pretty fun. Justice League Heroes takes solid dungeon crawling action and delivers a fun experience with some speed bumps along the way. I generally found the action within Justice League Heroes to be very enjoyable, but there are some key areas that, if implemented differently, would have made the game great. One of my main issues is how a large majority of the levels do not allow you to choose your own 2-man team for them. In many cases, you are dropped dropped into a level with 2 characters that you cannot change. This can be cool in that you get to play as different characters, but the annoying aspect is how you do not have any choice in who you get to be, and how the game has you level up those characters within the level and then needing to start at level 1 for the following level with a new set of characters. This can make you feel like you are never really progressing since you start the next level right back at square one again with a new set of heroes. It is appreciated that there are levels that let you choose your own 2-man team, but this is how a majority of the levels should have operated. I like how you can use the shields to unlock different heroes like Green Arrow, but you can only use these characters in levels where you can select your heroes. So it is awesome how you can pick your own team in these levels, but you will probably end up picking other characters that you have already played as, since they will be stronger than the newly unlocked characters. This really makes Justice League Heroes feel needlessly restrictive in its approach to creating a team and choosing who you want to play as. I think the game would have benefited from having a majority of the missions allowing you to choose who you want to play as. I do have a few ideas on how to fix some of these issues. I would have made the first mission to be separated into different sections where the game forces you to play as the different heroes. This way you can get a taste of each of the heroes, how they play, their strengths and their weaknesses, along with their different abilities. This way the first mission can act as a glorified tutorial, but allowing for you to try out each of the heroes. And then each mission following the first one would let you choose which hero you want to play as. Along with this, I would have had a hub-like area where you can talk to different members of the Justice League, along with options to revisit older missions and complete side challenges, like the Danger Room sections from the X-Men Legends games. This way you can grind for experience points if you want to, and have different avenues to level up under-leveled characters. Essentially, Justice League Heroes has a good base with fun gameplay and a nice selection of heroes to use, but some of the design aspects of the game needed more refinement. This is the biggest flaw within the game. There are other flaws like enemies like the flamethrower robots that can kill you way too fast, along with a lack of synergy type moves between the different characters. There was always a fun combination of different heroes to play as, and I wish that there was just one unique attack that you could do with each of the different heroes. Like having Green Arrow fire some arrows and then Superman infuse those arrows with some heat vision. That being said, the game does generally have a good flow of fun action mixed with some nice progression. Now let's discuss some of the story.
Asking for any help.
Well, since I'm here anyway.
The intro cutscene is short and to the point, giving us an overview of our team and who the core heroes are. The cutscene following this is a bit better as we get to see both Batman and Superman in action, and I think the intro of the game should have operated more like this cutscene, seeing the entire cast working together before we get into the gameplay. Show the player some of their cool abilities, allowing for each of them to have a moment to shine. The intro cutscene is fine, but it lacks the style that would have elevated it even more. The overall story is pretty enjoyable as you try to stop Brainiac and his plans along with a greater threat. There is plenty of cheesy banter between the characters, and the cutscenes are definitely a highlight of the game. In some cases, there are some nice bits of action as well. When it comes to the story, my one main issue, or rather the missed opportunity, is how the game did not use the voice cast from the Justice League animated TV show. If they were able to get all of those voice actors to come back to this, it would have elevated the presentation even more into a level of being extremely special. Those voice actors are iconic, and making a Justice League game that sort of resembles the TV show without the same voice actors was a big missed opportunity. Besides this, I found the story to be enjoyable as different areas of the DC universe get attention along with playing as my favorite heroes. Before we move to the conclusion, I want to highlight some of the solid tracks from the soundtrack. Here are a few tracks from the game. Justice League Heroes is both a flawed but underrated game. This is a game that gets a lot right. The story is very enjoyable with some well-presented cutscenes. The action is both familiar, enjoyable, and very addictive. Each of the different heroes plays similar on a base level, and their uniqueness comes into play with their different powers. I never got tired of playing as Superman and freezing enemies with his cold breath and then smashing them into little pieces. Each of the different characters were a joy to play. The progression systems were streamlined, yet still provided for some customization with the use of the slottable orbs. The game's biggest flaw is how restrictive it is with its design with choosing which characters you want to play as. A majority of the levels feature set characters and do not offer you to pick your own team. That being said, a pretty good foundation was built here with this game, and with some refinements in key areas, an even greater sequel could have been made. This game often gets overlooked by its Marvel counterparts with X-Men Legends and the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. And while Justice League Heroes does have its fair share of flaws, it still has many quality aspects that make it an underrated game worth checking out. Thank you very much for watching.